Alright, so in today's video I'm going to pull this pump that has been running this system here for about 2.5 years, 2 years, maybe 2 years. This will be its third season. And it works great. This is a Harbor Freight pump. I haven't cleaned it in a year. Now, I don't recommend you guys doing that because that's terrible practice. But that's the way it has been. So I'm gonna pull this pump and take it into the shop, clean it up. Let's take a look at it, see if it's how it's held up, check the shaft and the impellers, and just give it a general cleaning. I'll see you guys in a few minutes in the shop. Hey everybody, so today I'm going to take a look and clean up my Harbor Freight Creekstone 650 gallon an hour pump. I've had this pump installed for about a little more than 2 years now. It has been a very reliable pump, but one thing I haven't done, and I haven't cleaned it in about a year, which I highly recommend. That's not good practice, but that's what I did. And I'm going to take this apart, clean it up, take a look at the different parts, see how they look, show you what I think about this, and give you my opinion if I would buy this pump again based on what it looks like. Now, one of the very first things that I do when I buy any of these pumps is I get rid of that sponge. That sponge, all the sponges do most of the time is just clog up they get clogged up, and then they cause stress on the pump, and that stress in the pump creates wear and tear and all that type of stuff. Now, now I'm going to say this is a hypothesis just because I don't have a control, so I can't say this is the fact. And I'm not going to have a control because I don't have two systems big enough to run two pumps. But my hypothesis is that filter actually creates more problems than if little pieces of poop and that type of stuff get sucked in there and then ground up by the impeller. That's the hypothesis. The more that pump strains, the more it has to work, the hotter it gets, and the less time that it'll actually work. So, let's take a look. I pulled the cover off already. You guys saw that. It actually, I'm pretty amazed that it isn't all gooped up with stuff already. Like I said, it's been a year. So I need to pull this off. Now, these turn off just like that. Now I need to crank this down a little bit. I can't grab a hold of it with my fingers. Any tool that'll get tight enough to kind of grab a hold of it and pull it out of there will be fine after you pull it. So let's just pull that out. Let's take a look at the shaft. Okay, so this is a ceramic shaft, and it does have a little bit of goop around here, which is pretty normal. This is just plant fibers and different things like that sometimes get built up in there. This is not a good thing. This will also create wear and tear on the motor and stuff because it creates additional friction that isn't necessary and can damage the pump. Let's take a look at the shaft. Now the shaft, these shafts are really nice on these bigger Harbor Freight pumps, Creekstone pumps, because they're ceramic shafts, and ceramic shafts do not have the same wear as the stainless steel ones. The stainless steel ones just don't last very long. You'll generally see those, at least from my experience, in the lower end cheap pumps. And although this is a cheap pump, it has a pretty nice component, and boy, it shows. Now, without putting a measuring tool on it and all that kind of stuff, I don't know for sure how much wear and tear it's actually shown. But if you look at my my other review for a Harbor Freight pump, the shaft definitely showed a lot of wear and tear pretty early on in its life. Now it is still running, and that's the buzzing that you hear in the background. You know, that's the aquaponic system in the background that's running that particular pump, and the pump is still running, but it really should be replaced at this point. That shaft is in pretty bad shape, but it's only a $25 pump, so I mean, what are you going to expect? Yeah, that looks really good. I don't know if that can be seen. Take a look at that, guys. Hopefully you can kind of see that shaft's in great shape. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. Let's take a look at the impeller. Let's pull that impeller out of there. Wow, that's a hell of a magnet, I'll tell you. Now that impeller, although, no, the impeller looks rock solid. The magnet here, maybe a little bit of wear, but honestly, nothing that can't easily be cleaned up. And I need a rag. So we'll just kind of clean that up a little bit. And honestly, all we're taking off right now is just some biofilm. I just got an old shirt here I'm using for a rag. We're just pulling a little biofilm off there. I'm pretty impressed with this. I mean, this shaft literally sat for a year and shows very little wear. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but right in this area here, now I don't know if I don't think it is, but there is a little bit of a groove, like something probably got stuck in there for a little while. There is a little bit of a groove in the impeller here, but it's really, really minor. I'm not even going to bother to try to fix that or anything. That's nothing. And it probably has minimal, very minimal effect on the overall performance of the pump itself. So that I'm pretty darn impressed with. And except for a few scratches on this thing, on the magnet here, the counter magnet, it looks really good. Now, I know you guys can't see this, but down the middle of the shaft here looks really good too. Solid, rock solid. I like that. This is great news. Okay, so let's go ahead, and the only other thing I'm going to really have to do here is when I clean these out, what I try to do is get inside here, and there'll be like some biofilm and stuff like that kind of gets built up on the inside. And I'm going to try to clean that out a little bit. So we'll get in there and clean that up. Now, I have to take my glasses off here, guys. Okay. There is, or could be, I don't know if that's a factory. Okay, that's factory. So that must be where, okay, that's where these two plates come together. So in the inside here, there's like a ridge, and I know you guys can't see that, but there's like a ridge, but I think what that is where these they pressed some pieces together here. Okay, so that's no big deal. All right, well, we'll put that, clean that up a little bit again. Wow, yes, I would buy this pump again, absolutely. for the amount of money that you would spend on a pump. Now, of course, that's of course if it's appropriately sized for your system, which I would say probably any of your chop and flips, your smaller IBCs, probably anything. Well, this is a 620 gallon pump. So your goal is to turn all the water in the fish tank at least once an hour. In prime working condition, this will do it 2 times an hour, depending on how high you have to lift the water and all that type of stuff. But I would think for most of your smaller chop and flips, IBC, a couple of media beds, maybe one of your IBC 2 grow beds with a sump or something along those lines. That's probably all you're going to need. This pump will probably do the trick for you, provided you maybe, this is good practice anyway, add an extra air pump to the system and stuff. Yeah, I like it. This is in amazing shape for a pump that's as old as it is, and it's been running. I mean, I'll tell you what, I'll put the number of hours that I estimate that this thing is actually be running, but this is a 24/7 pump. I never turn this thing off, ever. So it's been running for over 2 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for a couple of times where I'm doing a little bit of maintenance here and there on the tank or an air pump, or I just need to see the fish a little bit better, or whatever the circumstances are. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I am very impressed with this. This is the only part that's showing anywhere, and of course this is a wear part, but taken care of properly, this will last a very, very long time. It probably, now I'm guessing here without doing some measuring and actual that type of thing, and I would have to measure it when I bought it brand new and all that type of stuff. So technically it's probably not still at the same level as it was, because it does have some wear and tear on it, but the performance of this pump is excellent as far as that goes. I'm impressed with how long it's lasted, the price point, the quality, and all that type of stuff. Probably the biggest downsides to this is it doesn't actually have, some of the more expensive pumps will have different ways of flowing or controlling the flow. They use a couple of valves that you can or don't have to put on here, but so you can control. This valve here controls how much goes up to the fish tank, and this valve here bypasses it. So I'm impressed. This is a good pump. I'm gonna go stick it back in the pump, back in the fish tank, because I don't want it. We want to insert the shaft. You always want to start there. There's a hole in the middle there with a little white disc that you want to put that down into. You want to make sure you get these things put together right, or they'll bind up. And of course, if they bind up, they don't work. So stick the shaft in there. Drop the impeller in. The hell of a clunk, isn't it? That is a very strong magnet in there. Okay, so now this is usually the trickiest part. Is you got to get that shaft lined up in the middle there, and that magnet always wants to kind of move it around, so it's kind of a bit of a pain. I have found that if I kind of come in at a little bit of an angle, I can kind of manipulate it around. This is the hardest part of the disassembly and the reassembly part, which honestly is not that big a deal. Come on. Although, of course, it's making a liar out of me now. Come on. There we go. Now I'm going to plug this in real short. You don't want to run these without water. The only reason I'm plugging this in is I just want to make sure I got the impeller in properly, and so that it doesn't bind up and obviously not work if it binds up. And so I'll just plug this in real short. It's going to make a gnarly noise because it doesn't have water, but it is pumping. Yep, the impeller's turning, so it's working just fine. All right, guys, I'm gonna take this out to the fish tank and plug it back in. Make sure I put the cover back on. I do want to keep larger debris, you know, any of that kind of larger debris out of there. I'm not worried about the small little like fish poops and things like that. It just grinds it up into nothing, and it probably does have an effect long term, but it doesn't seem to have much of an effect long term. I really don't see any reason why I won't get probably another year's use out of this before I might have to replace it. I don't know. You'll see a follow-up video about this time next year, and I'll let you know. Okay, the pump is reinstalled. It looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Looks good. It doesn't look like it's pumping any more or less water than it was. Obviously, that is not a real test because I don't have anything to really measure it with. But it looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. So, have a great day, guys. Like, share, subscribe, and let's take a quick look at the fish. Or at least in the fish tank. There we go. Yeah. Working great. Everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing.